console year! Yay! Consoles! We love
comes around every 6 years now, 7 years?
Something like that. We love spending $1,200 on new hardware, new controllers, new probably TVs, because it's an excuse.
8K and shit.
Yeah,
right?
New weird gimmicks that we think we want, but we really don't. Like, what the hell is this?
It's actually an electronic device that senses and reacts to your movements. It'll turn physical force into powerful attacks.
The next-gen consoles promise 16 times the detail, but they're not engendering 16 times the enthusiasm from developers.
Oh, I like that, Ralph.
Engender.
Engender?
Yes. It's a word. Let's keep moving. Guys, there was a survey done by GDC, the Game Developers Conference. They do it every single year. It's called State of the Game, and it talked about the current state of mind of most developers and what they're working on. It showed that there's not a lot of people making games for next gen, and next gen is really close. That's a bit concerning. Should we drop?
Let's drop. So in terms of next consoles, everybody, there's apparently a big announcement next month. PS5, we're hearing all about it.
This month. Oh wait, are we in February?
No, not yet.
We're not. Next month.
Apparently God of War 2, I'm very excited if it is.
I don't think that's true.
Well, we don't know. Neither confirm nor deny, okay? We've already heard about Xbox Series X. That is coming at the end of the year. This is definitely all coming, I reckon, at December 2020. Got 10 months.
Yeah, well,
for this all to happen.
look, realistically, 10 months is January.
No, well, Feb, and then December.
Apparently,
is 10 months.
now we're in Feb. Now we're 2 seconds ago we were in Feb.
1 day away from Feb.
But the point is, yes, consoles are coming this year. It's very exciting. We do look forward to it. You know, it's a chance for the industry to rejuvenate and take a bit of a step up. However, it seems like the step up won't be as immediate as we might have liked. Now, the survey we're getting our information here from is GDC's State of the Game survey. Now, GDC is the Game Developers Conference, happens every year.
In March.
Yep, and it's like, you know, just basically devs get together and hang out and talk about stuff. And it's actually quite a fascinating event. I've never been, but I've definitely watched it closely.
We should go to a
We should go. I'm sure developers would love to see us there.
EA, can you sponsor us, please? That would be
EA
nice.
and Bethesda will join forces to bring
awesome.
us there. And then, it'd
be great.
It'd be great. Now, this survey basically asked them, you know, what's up? What are you working on? What are you thinking about? There was a specific section of the survey that talked about sort of hardware and next gen, and I think it had some really interesting insights that I personally wasn't expecting, given that we are only a few months away from the launch of next gen hardware. In particular, number one headline...
PC Master Race.
PC Master Race, right? First of all, the PC is still the dominant platform and will continue to be the dominant platform. Respondents, 50% of devs said that their last game came to PC, so the game they just made. The current game that they are working on is going to be released on PC, and the game they will make after that will also be released on PC. 50% of developers said that, making it the dominant platform. PC, we love you. Salute. God bless you, PC Master Race. Is it these ones? Is that Australian one? I don't even know.
No, yeah, that's right. You're right. Like this, I did get it once. PC is the universal platform, everybody. Okay, that's where all the devs, you know, are gonna make their money regardless of what console is out or not. Really, everyone has a PC.
And even like, you know, stuff that's coming to Xbox exclusively is also coming to PC. So no, PC Master Race. Anyway, let's move on to the actual real headline, which is about next gen hardware. Okay, this is a very interesting figure, and they asked developers, are you making games for next gen? Only 10% of developers are currently making games for next gen. 11% of developers are making games for the PS5 right now, and 9% are making games for Xbox Series X right now. So there's only a 2% difference between those. I don't really think that's material. I don't think that's anything to worry about.
Definitely is. It just shows that PlayStation 5 is, of course, dominating the market, and it's not even out yet. No, but like, I hear you. Like, 10% of devs making next gen is small. I wonder what the figures were like for 360, for, you know, PlayStation 2. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I would expect that majority of devs need to make sure that they're taking care of their own profits, and all the market at the moment is still, of course, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. That's where they're going to make their money. You got to remember two things now. Now, number one, they're already doing this whole, like, you can play your Xbox One games on the Xbox One X series. So there's going to be a cross thing anyway. So a lot of those games that do come out, you can play them on there anyway, right? And number two, when a new console comes out, I remember them only having like 5 or 6 major titles.
Oh, like one major
You know what
title.
I'm saying though, right?
Like, but you would hope that would be different though. Like, you would hope that this generation might change and they jump on next gen hardware faster. Seems like that's not the case. But look, if you're still skeptical about those numbers, they also asked, Your next game that you will make, right? So these developers are working on a game right now, but the one they plan to make after that, will that game come to next gen? 23% of those developers said that their next game will come to PS5. 17% of those developers said it will come to Project Scarlet, or now known as Series X.
God, it's a long name.
Again, not a lot.
Not a lot.
Not like that, because that's your next game. There is a point here around what platforms developers are interested in developing for, okay? And 38% of developers say they would like to develop for PS5. And that's not saying that they will or won't, it's just like their personal interest, okay? 25% have said Xbox Series X. 37% say Nintendo Switch. There is already a noticeable gap there in terms of games being made for next-gen consoles between PlayStation 5 and Series X, and also the interest of the developers. That is a noticeable thing.
I think that's actually probably just a lagging behind, of the effects of the current gen battle. Let's face it, Xbox One did lose this console generation. If I'm a developer, I know that there's probably less money on there for me. So there's probably a bit of an aftertaste about that whole, last gen didn't do too well for Xbox, and that's probably what those figures are coming from.
I agree. Look, I think this makes a lot more sense when we start talking about the current gen console and how developers are planning to approach that. So when asked, are you making games for the current gen, so PS4 and Xbox One, 25% of developers are working on PS4 games, 23% are working on games
which
for
is
Xbox
a lot
One.
closer, actually.
They ask, your next game that you make after this one, okay, will that come out on PS4 and Xbox? 20% of respondents say their next game will come out on PS4. 20% say their next game will come out on Xbox. So again, that's not the one that they are working on right now. That's the one they plan to start making and ship after that. 20% of developers are still planning cross-generational at least. Get this number, 5% of developers say they are targeting next-gen exclusives for their next game. So only 5% of developers are working on next-gen consoles exclusively. That's really low, man. I mean, what we said earlier, that 10% of developers are making games for next-gen, that's fine, but they're also making games for last gen as well. Another really interesting tidbit was that 34% of developers confirmed that their current project, the game they are currently working on, will be on both generations of hardware, which means that we are going to see a hell of a lot of game released on PS4, remaster released on PS5, etc. Like the updated version, okay? Which we saw a lot of last gen. It's going to be even more this time, it seems. So I think what we can summarize from all of this is that there's no way, developers are moving on from current gen hardware anytime soon, okay? They still have an interest in making games for both generations of hardware, even though the new hardware is arriving, and they're going to take their sweet ass time in making next gen exclusives. That's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's kind of good to have, a situation, if I was to go out and buy a console that's going to cost me $600, that I feel like there is going to be a bit of a library there that's going to be on both consoles. I like that. But from what we've seen before, and the worry in the community now is is this a decision with developers kind of doing it on both consoles? Is this going to hold back the next gen and what the games really look like and creative ideas on those games?
And this was the big issue with Microsoft recently announcing that all of their games on Microsoft, all their first-party exclusives, will be cross-gen for at least the first 1 to 2 years. People are really upset about that because they're like, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to make games exclusively for next-gen hardware with faster CPU, with faster SSD, etc. I want you to shoot for the moon, right?
And I get that.
I get that as well. But the reality is, Microsoft were not holding anyone back. The developers hold themselves back. This survey itself proves that. It's not about, they see the commercial imperative of releasing their games on massive install bases of hardware. You've got 100 million, 110 million PS4s in circulation. You're crazy if you don't release your games on that. So they are naturally going to hold back their games to ensure that they can also run on a PS4. That's just life. Over time, that changes, of course, but certainly at the beginning, during the transition, first 1 to 2 year of hardware, that's going to be the case.
I just think you'd be crazy given the figures of the PS4, over 100 million console install base or something.
Yeah.
It's just gigantic. As a developer, I need to make sure that I'm making money and I'm opening those doors. So I get it that some people are like, I just spent $600 on this, man. Make sure you give me the best damn experience. You've also got to understand, as the developer, they need to make sure that they've got the money to continue making games for the next gen And yes,
For
that's
sure.
important.
Interestingly enough, Nintendo seems to be immune from all of this. 17% of developers are currently developing for the Switch, and 19% said their next game will be on Switch. So
That's because
it's going well.
They can not get any returns on the pre-orders. So they're like, we'll put it on there,
That's
okay?
right.
Pre-order that shit, we get money, and we know we're keeping it.
There was also some stuff. There was also some stuff about VR and AR, augmented reality. 15% of developers are currently working on VR titles. 7% are working on AR titles. 27% of developers are interested in working on VR. 16% are interested in augmented reality. There's a figure here that says only 10% of developers are working on PSVR games. Ooh. That's compared to 25% for the Oculus Rift S and 24% for the Quest. That's a disappointing number for Sony, given the fact that they have made a very big push into VR. They've said it's a real flagship offering. To see only 10% of developers are currently working on games for it, I'm sure kind of hurts.
Not to mention, we've seen that they might have plans for like PSVR 2. They are doubling down on that. It'd be different if they were like going, well, we'll just see how that goes. It seems like they're putting more into it.
There's also interesting data here about streaming platforms. Turns out 6% of developers are currently making games with Google Stadia.
Wow.
3% of developers are currently making games for Xbox xCloud.
That's different though, because they're like, we're going to make this for Xbox anyway.
No, it's different because what they're asking here is, are you making games specifically leveraging that technology?
With the computational...
Okay? Correct. Now, Xbox has specifically said that they plan to make games exclusively for xCloud, but they are not doing that yet. They are in talks. That was actually a conversation that I had with the head of xCloud myself, where they specifically said they are in early talks to make exclusive xCloud content in the future, but they're not doing it yet. But either way, look, I think that, what this data shows overall...
A lot of numbers today.
But I think the highest level takeaway is that next gen is coming, but it's going to take a while, okay? It's not like they flick a light switch and then everyone's making games for next gen. Only 10% of developers are currently working on a next gen title, and furthermore, all of those developers plan on releasing pretty much, both of their current project and their next project on both generations of hardware. So the next round of games we get, the next sort of 2 to 3 years, are still going to be held back by last gen hardware. That's just a fact of life.
So I think a lot of people that want to jump onto the next gen, $600 is a lot of money. If they can see data, or if they can see all the games that they want are coming out on the current console gen, maybe that'll affect console sales slightly, knowing that a lot of the games that you know and love are also going to be on the current gen, but maybe not.
I don't think it'll affect console sales at all. I think these consoles will unquestionably just continue to sell out, like, in that first opening window. I think everyone kind of knows this is the rhythm of console releases, where there's not a lot of stuff at the beginning and you do see remasters and what have you, and that changes over time. But I think this does help sort of set expectations and make that clear. We've got some data to suggest that, yes, it's not going to be this immediate rush of next-gen titles leveraging the technology. It's going to take time for that to ramp up. So I think that's what I take from this data. Either way, games, man.
Games, a lot of games.
We love video games, and there's more coming in this year with the 2020 rush. Get your wallets ready.
And have iVision good, because it's 2020 and there's jokes about iVision.